These cars were so fast that NASCAR had to change the rules just to stop them. They looked like something out of a science fiction movie, with giant wings and pointed noses. But for a brief moment in the late 1960s, they completely dominated stock car racing. So what made these machines so unstoppable? And why did NASCAR decide they'd never race like this again? By the late 1960s, NASCAR had become a horsepower war. Manufacturers like Ford, Dodge, and Plymouth were constantly searching for an edge, and they quickly realized something. More power wasn't enough anymore. At speeds approaching 200 miles per hour, aerodynamics became just as important as horsepower. Instead of simply building faster engines, engineers began shaping the air itself. The result was one of the wildest chapters in NASCAR history. In 1969, Dodge introduced the Charger Daytona. Its most recognizable feature was the massive rear wing, mounted nearly 2 feet above the trunk. Up front, the standard Charger grille was replaced by a long, pointed nose cone designed to slice through the air. It looked ridiculous, but it worked. The Daytona became the first NASCAR stock car to officially break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier, forever changing what teams believed was possible. Not wanting to be left behind, Plymouth answered with the Superbird in 1970. It used many of the same aerodynamic tricks, but wrapped them in an even more outrageous design. Here's something I've always wondered. If NASCAR had never stepped in, do you think modern race cars would still have giant wings and pointed noses today? Or would engineers have eventually come up with something even crazier? Let me know what you think. The wings weren't just for show. At nearly 200 miles per hour, they created downforce, pressing the rear tires firmly into the track while reducing drag with a streamlined nose. That meant higher top speeds, better stability, and incredible performance on NASCAR's fastest tracks. Drivers like Richard Petty and Buddy Baker became nearly unbeatable in the Aero cars. In fact, Buddy Baker's 200-mile-per-hour lap wasn't just a milestone. It proved that NASCAR had entered an entirely new era. Suddenly, the competition wasn't just about engines anymore. It was becoming an engineering contest. And NASCAR wasn't sure that was the direction it wanted to go. Quick question. Do you think NASCAR should allow radical designs like these again? Or do you prefer that every manufacturer races with cars that look much more similar? I'm curious where everyone stands on that. For the 1971 season, NASCAR introduced rules that effectively ended the Aero car era. Rather than banning the cars outright, NASCAR imposed engine restrictions that dramatically reduced their competitiveness. The winged cars could still technically race, but only with smaller engines, while other competitors were allowed to use larger ones. The advantage that had made the Daytona and Superbird legendary was suddenly gone. Within a season, the Aero cars had largely disappeared from NASCAR competition. It was the end of one of the shortest and most unforgettable eras in motorsports. Today, the Dodge Daytona and Plymouth Superbird are among the most valuable and recognizable muscle cars ever built. What was once considered too extreme for racing has become automotive legend. For just a brief moment, these machines pushed NASCAR further than anyone thought possible. And they did it so well that the rulebook had to change. If you enjoyed this dive into one of NASCAR's wildest stories, be sure to subscribe because there are plenty more forgotten moments from racing history worth exploring. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.